Last year, dealers across America sold about 33,000 powerboats. Sailboats? Barely 3,000. The sailboat business is quietly dying right there on the dock, and if you understand why, you can walk into just about any brokerage in the country and name your own price. For the salesman, that's a slow disaster. For you, it's a door standing wide open. There's a brand new cruising sailboat on a broker's dock in St. Petersburg, Florida, wearing a sticker just past $400,000. It's been tied to that dock since the spring. The salesman has dropped the price twice, and nothing is wrong with it. It's clean, it's new, the gel coat still shines, the sails have never tasted salt, the diesel has 40 hours on it. By every measure the brochure cares about, it is a perfect boat. And it will not sell. Walk the docks in any real sailing town right now, St. Pete, San Diego, Annapolis, Seattle, and you'll see the same thing. Rows of boats wearing for sale placards that have gone pale and curled in the sun. Bottoms turned soft and green because nobody's bothered to haul them. Brokers standing in the shade of a bimini, checking their phones, waiting on a buyer who used to show up every Saturday and now doesn't show up at all. For 30 years, I've watched the man on the other side of that dock, the new boat salesman with the financing brochure and the sunset photo. His whole pitch was momentum. More volume, more headroom, bigger swim platform, sailor off the lot this season. And don't you worry about the details. And for 20 of those years, the pitch worked. Money was cheap, boats were scarce, and a buyer who hesitated lost the boat to the next fella in line. That salesman is having a very bad year. And the same reasons he can't move his inventory are the reasons you're about to have the best leverage a buyer's had in 15 years. So let's get into them, counting down the real reasons the boats aren't selling, from the ones everybody talks about to the one nobody on that dock wants to say out loud. Start with how bad it's gotten, because it's worse than the dock talk. That sailboat market I mentioned didn't just shrink, it fell almost 14% in a single year. And a new boat now takes an average of 279 days to sell. That's 9 months. 9 months of slip fees, insurance, and interest, while a salesman waits for a phone that isn't ringing. Now the reasons. We start at number 6, and it's the one the salesman will happily admit to, because it isn't his fault. The money broke. A boat is a dream, but a boat loan is arithmetic. During the boom, you could finance a cruiser for around 4%, and the monthly number looked almost reasonable sitting next to the fantasy. Today, that same loan runs north of 8%. The average boat loan last year landed right around 8.5%. Put that against a new $400,000 sailboat, and the payment doesn't just climb. It changes what kind of person can say yes at all. Run the numbers on that $400,000 boat, and you're staring down something north of $3,000 a month for 20 years before you've paid a nickel of slip fee or bought a single gallon of diesel. Nothing about the boat changed. The boat is identical. The math underneath it doubled. And a dream you'd have to refinance your whole life to afford stops feeling much like a dream somewhere around the second decimal place. Number 5. Everybody's selling at the same time. The average sailboat owner in this country is in his late 50s or his 60s. A whole generation bought their boats 20 and 30 years ago, and now they're doing the quiet math on their knees, on the winches, on one more offshore passage, and a lot of them are deciding to sell. Now add the people who bought in a hurry during the pandemic and never really used the thing. Add the ex-charter boats coming off the line down in the islands. Put them all on the market inside the same 18 months, and you get a harbor full of for sale signs and nowhere near enough hands to buy them. There are simply more boats hunting for owners than there are owners hunting for boats. The listings pile up on a broker's screen like a building C, and a bigger cruising sailboat now sits close to half a year on average before it sells. If it sells. Number 4 is the one that kills the deal after everybody's already shaken hands. Insurance. Here's how it goes wrong. A buyer finds an older boat he loves, A good, honest cruiser out of the 1990s priced to move. Survey comes back clean. Everybody's happy. Then he calls to insure her, and the underwriter asks one question. How old is the standing rigging? Because on a boat past 20 years, the insurers now want that wire, those swages, those chain plates 10 years old or newer, or they simply won't write the policy. And re-rigging a 40-footer runs $6,000 to $10,000. On a 50, $15,000 and up. On a boat that only cost $30,000 to begin with, that number lands like green water over the bow. The buyer does the sum, says forget it, and walks. The boat didn't fail the survey. It failed the insurance quote. That's a newer, quieter way to lose a sale, and half these brokers never see it coming. Now, number 3. And this is where I'll be fair to the other side of the dock, because I'm not here to tell you every new boat is a swindle. There's an honest case for buying new. If you're retired, you've got the cash, and you want to be cruising this year, not after 2 winters of refit archaeology, then a new boat is a real answer. You get exactly the layout you want. You get a warranty. You get systems nobody else has already half broken. For the buyer whose time is worth more than his money, that isn't getting robbed. That's a fair trade, and I'll say so plainly. But that buyer is rare, and everybody else got educated. The internet happened to boating. Forums, videos, channels like this one. The buyer walking the dock today knows what depreciation does to a brand new hull because somebody sat him down and showed him. So look at what he actually bought last year. Sales of brand new, current year boats fell almost 18%. 1-year-old boats fell over 30%. But the 3 to 5-year-old boats, those sold just fine. The modern buyer figured out he can let the first owner eat the worst, fastest years of depreciation, then step aboard a nearly identical boat for a fraction of the money, which means the freshest, shiniest boat on the salesman's dock is now the single worst value on it, and the buyer knows it before he even reaches the bottom of the ramp. If that's the kind of straight talk you wish somebody had given you before you signed, the stuff the salesman will never volunteer, do me a favor. Tap that like button, then hit subscribe. I put a couple of these out every week, and there's always another boat and another trap coming right behind this one. Number 2. While the salesman was standing there waiting for somebody to buy his monohull, the whole market walked right past him to the catamarans. The math on the dock is brutal if you're selling one hull. A single-hull cruiser priced at $400,000 can sit for a year and feel to the buyer like a compromise. Meanwhile, the million-dollar catamarans are getting contracts signed on the dock at the boat show. 2 hulls, walk-around space, a cockpit you can throw a party in, and a charter income story to tell the spouse on the way home. The money that's still moving in sailing is moving toward multi-hulls, and one broker said it flat out. A good part of the monohull market has all but vanished. So if that salesman's dock is full of single-hull boats, and most of them are, he's holding the exact thing this market just decided it doesn't want. Which brings us to number 1. The reason nobody standing on that sales dock will say out loud because it's the only one that doesn't get better next quarter. The boat stopped being worth what they're asking. Not because it's a bad boat, because the buyer finally understands what the boat actually does. Here's the truth that's been leaking out for a decade and has now flooded the whole market. A clean, sorted, capable older sailboat, $30,000, $40,000, will cross the very same ocean as the $500,000 boat sitting on the dock. It'll ride out the same gale. It'll lie to the same anchor, in the same cove, under the same sunset, with the same rum in the same cockpit. The expensive boat does not get you to Bermuda 1 mile better than the cheap one. For 20 years, the salesman's entire business depended on you not knowing that. And now you know it. I'll tell you where I learned it. Years back, I helped deliver a tired old 32-footer, a boat you could have bought for the price of a decent used pickup, from the Chesapeake down to the islands. We caught the back end of a full gale off Hatteras on the way. That little boat put her shoulder down and just kept going, dry and steady, like she'd done it 100 times, and she probably had. I've since watched brand new 60-footers come limping into port, with the crew rattled and half the gear broken. The ocean never once read the sticker on either one. It doesn't know how. It doesn't care. Think about what that does to his dock. He's asking $500,000 for a feeling. The feeling that you finally arrived, that this is the real boat, the serious boat, the one that proves you made it. But the buyer who did his homework has learned that the ocean doesn't check your sticker price. It checks your keel bolts, your rigging, and your seamanship, and it charges every man the same admission. Once a buyer knows that, the salesman isn't selling a better boat anymore. He's just selling a more expensive one. And in a year when money's tight and boats are everywhere you look, more expensive is the one thing nobody is buying. So that's why the boats aren't selling, not the interest rates, not the insurance. Those are the symptoms. The disease, if you happen to be the salesman, is that the truth finally got out. So what would I do with my own money standing on a dock full of boats nobody's buying? I'd treat it like the buyer's market it plainly is, because for the first time in a long time, you're the one holding the leverage. If I wanted turnkey and I wanted to sail this season, I still wouldn't buy new. I'd buy the 3 to 5-year-old version of new, let the first owner take the depreciation beating and step aboard for $100,000 less than he paid. And if I wanted to genuinely cross oceans, I'd go the other way entirely. I'd hunt down the clean, already re-rigged older bluewater boat, the kind of honest, heavily built cruiser that's been quietly crossing oceans since before the salesman ever printed a brochure, and I'd let some other man's finished project become my ready ship. Same ocean. A third of the price. And a seller who, in this market, will finally take my number. And the numbers are already tilted your way. The bigger cruising boats are selling at around 7% under their asking price and taking the better part of 160 days to do it. That gap, the distance between what they're asking and what they're taking, is your negotiating room, and the market handed it to you for free. It got wider every month last year. Because that's the real opportunity buried inside all this bad news for the dealers. Every boat that sits too long belongs to somebody who's getting a little more tired and a little more flexible every week it doesn't sell, which is exactly where the next one picks up. Because there's a right way to walk up to a boat that's been sitting 170 days and an offer, a specific number, that gets you a yes instead of a slammed hatch. Next time I'll show you exactly how to make it. Until then, don't let anybody rush you off the dock. In a market like this one, the right boat isn't going anywhere. It'll still be sitting there after you've done the math. And it'll still be floating and still be yours, on the far side of the ocean the salesman was only ever selling you a picture of.